Lesson 30. The end of the course and the start of the actual work. Let me start by reminding you of something. In the very first lesson, I described a scene you probably recognize. Someone wakes up, sees Bitcoin down 5%, feels sick, buys on a friend's tip, can't decide whether to sell, cuts the loss at -3, goes to bed, and wakes up to find it jumped 10%. The next morning, emotional, exhausting, brutal hours. That was the picture of manual trading we started with. And the whole point of this course was to give you a way out of it. 30 lessons later, you have that way out. You can install Freqtrade, pull historical data, write a strategy, backtest it, read the report, optimize without fooling yourself, paper trade in real time, and put small real capital to work with a stop loss in place. That is a complete loop. Most people who trade crypto never get to that point. They never even get to the backtest part. So before anything else, give yourself credit for finishing. Now, I want to use this last lesson well. Not to add new features, not to give you a checklist of resources. I want to talk honestly about what comes next, because finishing a course is a strange moment. You feel like you should be ready, and in some ways you are. And in the ways that actually matter most, you are not. And that is normal. Where we started, where you are when we began, Freqtrade was a name you maybe half recognized. You weren't sure what a backtest really told you. The command line felt foreign. Words like hyperopt and drawdown and dry run were floating around without anchoring. Now look at what you can do. You can install the bot and configure it for Binance or Bybit or Kraken. You can download clean historical data and run a strategy across years of it. You can read a backtest report and know which numbers matter and which ones are noise. You can take a strategy into hyperopt, tune its parameters, and walk away with something better than you started with, while knowing exactly how close to the cliff of overfitting you are. You can put the bot into dry run, watch it trade live data with fake money, pipe its signals into Telegram, and check on it from your phone. And if you went through the live trading section, you have at least thought through the pre-live checklist and understood what it means to risk real capital with a machine making the calls. That is the technical side. And it is real. But it is also only the entry ticket. The actual trading, the actual money, the actual years of compounding or bleeding, those are still ahead. The course teaches you how to drive. It does not teach you how to win the race. Nobody can teach you that in 30 lessons, or in 300. The part nobody tells you here is the thing I want you to internalize more than any indicator or any command. In the early lessons, I told you that the single biggest advantage of quant trading is that it removes your emotions from the moment of decision. That is still true. The bot doesn't panic at 3 a.m. and it doesn't get greedy after a win. But here is the part that catches people. The emotions don't disappear, they move. In manual trading, the emotion happens during the trade. You are staring at the screen. Your stomach is in knots. You click sell in a panic. In quant trading, the emotion happens between trades. Your backtest said plus 50% over a year. You go live and the first month is -5. Now, the emotion is sitting there in your chest every morning when you check the bot. Should I turn it off? Should I tweak the parameters? Should I switch to the other strategy that looked better in last week's backtest? Maybe I should just add more capital to make up for the loss. Maybe I should override the bot on this one trade, because I have a feeling. Every one of those impulses is the same impulse that made the manual trader panic sell at -3%. It has just put on a more sophisticated disguise. I am not exaggerating when I say that the gap between people who survive their first year of live trading and people who don't is mostly temperament, not technique. The technique you already have. The temperament you have to build slowly by sitting with the discomfort of a losing month and not ripping the system out, and by sitting with the discomfort of a winning month and not pumping in money you can't afford to lose. So when I tell you the split is something like 30% technique and 70% mindset, I don't mean that as a motivational line. I mean it as a warning. You will spend the next year being tested on the 70% and the test never ends. The mistakes I don't want you to make, let me name the ones I have seen most often, because naming them is half the defense. The first is chasing perfection. You finish a course like this and you want a strategy that wins. So you tune, and you re-optimize, and you test 100 variations, and you find one that backtests at plus 80%, and you convince yourself it is real. It is almost certainly overfit. A strategy that looks too good in a backtest is not a strategy you have discovered. It is a strategy you have memorized. Accept that a robust strategy looks modest on paper. A 20% annual return with a 15% drawdown is a genuinely good strategy. If yours looks like 200% with no drawdown, you have built a mirage. The second is fiddling. The bot has a bad week and you change the parameters. Then it has another bad week because of course it does, and you change them again. You never give any single version of the strategy enough time to prove itself. Months go by and you have run 10 different strategies in dry run and none of them for more than 2 weeks, and you have learned nothing about any of them. The fix is a rule. Pick a strategy, give it a defined amount of time, say 30 days minimum, before you even consider changing anything, and write down in advance what would make you change it. Otherwise, you are just reacting. The third is going big too early. You finish the course, you feel confident, you put real capital in, and the temptation is to size up. Skip that. Start with money you genuinely do not care about. The kind of money where if it went to zero tomorrow you would shrug, treat it as tuition. $1,000 to $3,000 is plenty for your first months of live trading. If you can't shrug at losing it, you have too much in. The fourth is revenge trading. You take a loss, you feel the sting, and you either manually override the bot to chase a win, or you crank up the position size to make it back. This is how small losses become account-ending losses. The bot is there to prevent exactly this. Let it. The fifth is stopping learning. The market you backtested against last year is not the market you will trade against next year. Strategies decay. Regimes shift. What worked in a choppy sideways year stops working in a trending one. If you treat the moment you finish this course as the moment you stop studying, you will be confused in a year when your strategy stops performing, and you won't know why. What to actually keep doing here is the boring and essential part. These are the habits that separate the people who are still trading in 3 years from the people who quietly quit. Keep paper trading. Even once you are live, keep a dry run instance going with the same strategy, or with strategies you are considering. It costs nothing and it gives you a baseline. If live and dry run diverge a lot, something is wrong and you want to know. Keep a journal, not a fancy one. A plain text file is fine. Every day, write down what the bot did, what the market did, and most importantly, what you felt like doing and whether you did it. The point is not to be a writer. The point is to make yourself slow down enough to notice your own patterns. 6 months from now, you will read it back and see things about yourself that you cannot see in the moment. Keep reviewing on a schedule. Once a week, sit down for an hour and look at the week's trades. Once a month, sit down for 2 hours and look at the month. Look at the numbers, yes, win rate, average profit, drawdown. But also look at whether the strategy is doing what you expected, whether the market it was built for still exists, whether anything needs to change. Daily review turns into daily fiddling. Keep risk in front of you. Every single time. Before you change a parameter, before you add capital, before you start a new strategy live, ask yourself what happens if it goes wrong. If the answer is I lose money, I can't afford to lose, do not do it. It really is that simple and people really do keep failing it. Keep learning one thing at a time. You do not need to master machine learning and Elliott wave and options hedging all at once. Pick one direction for the next few months. Maybe it is getting deeper at Python. Maybe it is studying risk management properly. Maybe it is reading one good book on trading psychology. Just one. Finish it. Then pick the next one. A realistic picture of the next year. Let me give you a timeline that is honest. In the first month after finishing this course, expect to feel busy and a little overwhelmed. You will be setting up your environment properly, choosing your first real strategy, starting a dry run, maybe dipping into small live capital. You will make mistakes with configuration. You will see the bot do things that surprise you. That is normal. The goal of month 1 is not profit. The goal is to have a system running cleanly and to start your journal. By month 3, you should have a strategy that has run continuously in dry run for at least 30 days. Ideally more. You should have a feel for how it behaves in different market conditions. You should be starting to trust it, or to have good evidence-based reasons not to. If you went live, you should still be at small size. By month 6, if you have been disciplined, you will have real data on how your strategy performs live versus its backtest. You will have lived through at least one bad stretch and discovered whether you can handle it emotionally. Most people cannot, the first time. That is the most valuable thing you will learn in this period, more valuable than any return number. By month 12, you should know whether this is for you. Not because of the returns, but because of how you felt about the process. If you spent the year stressed, checking the bot constantly, fighting the urge to fiddle, and you hated it, that is useful information. Quant trading is not for everyone, and there is no shame in deciding it is not for you. If you spent the year calm, curious, disciplined, and gradually building competence, then you have found something that can compound for decades. The people who make it are not the smartest ones. They are the ones who can sit with discomfort without breaking their own rules. Signing off, I want to end the way I think is most useful, which is honestly. Quantitative trading is not a holy grail. I said that in lesson 1 and I am saying it again in lesson 30. It will not make you rich quickly. It will not protect you from black swans. It will not absolve you from the work of staying disciplined. It is a tool, a system, a method, and whether it works for you depends almost entirely on the person operating it. But it is a genuinely good tool. It removes you from the worst moments of decision. It lets you test ideas for free before you risk money on them. It lets you sleep while the bot watches the market. It lets you measure what you are doing instead of guessing. For the kind of person who likes data and can follow a plan, it is one of the better approaches to markets that exists. If I could leave you with one thing, it would be this. Risk management is the foundation of survival. Everything else is built on top of that. A mediocre strategy with excellent risk control will keep you in the game long enough to learn. A brilliant strategy with no risk control will eventually take you out, and it will probably do it in the exact moment you feel most confident. Protect your capital first, pursue returns second, and you will still be trading years from now when most of the people who started alongside you have given up. Be patient with yourself. The learning curve does not end here. It just changes shape. You will make mistakes you could not have predicted from this course. That is fine. Write them down, learn from them, keep your risk small enough that no single mistake ends you, and keep going. Thank you for staying with this through all 30 lessons. That is not nothing. Most people who start a course like this do not finish, and the fact that you are listening to this last one means you have already done something most people don't. I hope it serves you. I hope the bot you build treats you well. I hope the discipline you develop here turns out to be useful in the rest of your life too, because it usually is. That is the course. The next lesson is the market itself. Go carefully, keep your stop losses honest, and I will see you out there.